The video review will start in a few seconds, but if you're watching this on YouTube, remember, if you have a question, comment, or suggestion for me, you can post it on 3dgameman.com, and the link is provided below. Hello again, I'm Rodney Reynolds from 3dgameman.com, and welcome to another video review. Today I'm looking at the Nexus NX-5000V1 550W power supply. Great looking box with a picture of the product on the front, as well as features and specifications all around the box. The box is wrapped in plastic, and there's a handle at the top. Now let's see what's inside. It's packaged fairly well, a little piece of styrofoam to prevent the power supply from moving around. The power supply itself is in a bubble wrap bag. They include some cable ties, 4 screws for mounting the power supply in the case, a power cord, and let's just remove it from the bag and have a closer look at it. Now, this power supply has been revised since the original NX-5000 with 50 watts more power, has a higher efficiency, and is compliant with ERP 2013, but it is still extremely quiet. Now, let's have a look at this 550 watt power supply. Now, how is this wattage determined? To understand that, you need to know what rails are. And rails are basically well-regulated transformers which convert domestic current into the voltages that your computer system can use, and there are essentially 2 different rails, the 3.3/5 volt rail and the 12 volt rail. Now in this particular case, the approximate maximum peak output of the 3.3/5 volt rail is 100 watts, and the 12 volt is 516 watts, which is essentially how the wattage of this power supply is determined. The 3.3/5 volt rail is responsible for the motherboard, memory, PCI cards, and so on, while the 12 volt rail is responsible for the hard drives, optical drives, fans, CPU, video cards, etc. It's also important to know the peak amps on each rail. In this case, the plus 3 volt and the plus 5 volt rails are both 20 amps each, and it has a single plus 12 volt rail, and that's 43 amps. Now, just don't go out there and get yourself any old power supply. A lot of the cheap ones are not even painted. They don't have any real impressive specs, and that is not a good thing. You want to get a power supply that is brand name and will give you decent quality power. Now, the first thing you want to really check out is the wattage that you require, because there's no point in getting a power supply that has too much wattage, because you're just wasting your money. So determine how much wattage you're going to require by the amount of hardware that you will be installing. Now, generally speaking, a medium to high-end gaming rig would require a 500 to 700 watt power supply. So this power supply would fall into that category. For a hardcore system, select a power supply that's around 800 watts. If, however, you are building an extreme gaming rig with a top-of-the-line multiple video card setup with lots of other hardware, select a power supply that's 1000 watts or greater. Second, it should be at or above 80% efficiency at typical load, and the efficiency of this power supply is over 85%, but will vary depending upon load, and you can see this from the diagram. Third, it should meet the latest ATX and other current standards, environmental directives over voltage, under voltage, and other protections. This power supply meets all current standards. Fourth, I'd recommend choosing a power supply that has APFC. APFC, or active power factor correction, assists the power supply in being more efficient and therefore stable under load. APFC basically reduces total harmonics, it corrects input voltage, and it allows for full input voltage range. And thankfully, this power supply has APFC. Fifth, there are 3 main certifications: 80+, NVIDIA SLI, and AMD Crossfire. Many of today's high-end power supplies meet one or more of these certifications. Note that this power supply complies with the 80+ silver specifications. Sixth, you really should look for a power supply that uses Japanese capacitors, because this ensures a much more reliable product than a power supply with low-grade capacitors, and there's no indication that this power supply uses Japanese capacitors. Finally, get a power supply that has enough leads for your setup. Also consider a power supply that has a modular design, because it reduces the cable mess inside the case. Also, it's important to get a power supply with an excellent warranty, and I believe this power supply comes with a 2-year warranty, which is a little low considering other companies offer 5 years plus. Now, this power supply has your standard black paint finish, nothing really fancy about it. You know, it doesn't have this textured paint anti-scratch coating on it, but it's fine. They include a very quiet 120 millimeter fan. And note that the fan is white. It also has lots of ventilation holes and more here. Here's the power cord connection and the power switch. Now this power supply isn't modular, as all the leads are hardwired into the power supply and can't be removed, although they've done an excellent sleeving job with this X mesh on all of the leads. Finally, have a listen to the very quiet, almost inaudible actually, 120 millimeter fan. Now this power supply is certainly not meant for anyone who has a really hardcore to extreme gaming setup with lots of hardware, multiple video cards, and that kind of stuff. However, this power supply will go over extremely well if you are looking for this kind of wattage, and 550 watts is more than adequate for most builds, and you need a power supply that is super compact. This thing is only 125 millimeters long, so it will fit perfectly in a small form factor case. Also, it's efficient, offers quality power, has a really super quiet 120 millimeter fan, a great sleeving job, and as well, it comes at a decent price point. Overall, this is a great product. Until next time, take care. I hope you enjoyed this video review, and please note that pricing for this product is available on the 3D Game Man video review page.